So what's going on, everybody? Today is 1/9/2025. Appreciate you for coming through. And what we're going to discuss today, right, is your weak reading ability is hurting your income, your learning, your lifestyle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna present you a lot of reading stats, but also gonna present you stats around how people are consuming more online video content. And then we're gonna ask ourselves, how does this negatively impact people when they have low literary skills, but they want to try to improve their life? And this is really, really important because many people are faced with trying to improve their lifestyle, trying to improve their economic mobility. However, they don't have the skill sets to do it. And what could be standing in the way of them learning is the fact that they have weak literacy skills. And this is something that's not only big inside the United States, but it's pretty much big all over the world. And it's been a problem in the world for an extended period of time. And as we go to more and more of an advanced world, I believe there's going to be more of a demand on literacy skills at a high level, a highly functioning literary person. And the biggest issue is that many people are not positioning themselves for that change because of the current world that we live in today, right? I'm going to kind of show you what I mean, right? So really quickly, the sponsors of the show is going to be www.thehighestpaid.online. And the reason why that's important is because we've been able to help a lot of people solve their income issues, right? By teaching them how to successfully trade the options market. However, also what we've added is something that we call the Lazy Investor course, and it's designed to teach you how to invest without having to really be a student of the market, without having to spend hours in front of the market trying to figure out what direction the market's going to go. I want to encourage you to look into that, right? But I'm going to talk about, I'm going to continue to build up to this particular February video because I believe it can be transformational to a lot of people. Because what we've done here the last 5 years and the improvements that we've made in a lot of people's lives, people are not aware of it because they just assume I'm a guy that makes YouTube videos. And I'm going to kind of speak to that and speak to why there's a lot of social conditioning around that. However, if you want to get ahead of the curve, I would encourage you to go to the www.thehighestpaid.online. Look into what we have, ask yourself if what we have can help solve your problem, and then we move forward, right? So let's go ahead and get into the content. So what we're talking about is your weak reading ability. It's hurting your income, learning, and your lifestyle. So the first question I want to ask the audience is, how many hours a week do you read, right? How many hours a week do you read? And for example, I woke up this morning, I read something on Twitter which caused me to read more of some other stuff because I just a potential trade for tomorrow. I need to do some more reading tonight around this particular topic. I read every day, minimum an hour, but probably more than that on some days, but minimum an hour. And I'm just talking about work-related reading. I'm not talking about reading the Bible, but work-related reading minimum every day is probably an hour. So what I read this morning on Twitter, and then what I read to put this presentation together, I probably read more just today than most people are going to read all week. So the question is, how many hours a week do you read? And so here's something that I want to get people to understand. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to be my own speculation. This is going to be my own supposition. This is going to be my own conspiracy. You're being slow walked to your own demise by being socialized in a world where you read less and watch more. Right? And I know that. Okay? And that's just what I believe. And so this is why it's been really, and I come from a reading family, but it was really, really important that the younger people around me, and some held, they adhered to it, some didn't. But I really believe, and I'm going to continue to say this, that many of you are being slow walked to your demise in a lot of different areas by believing that you are going to watch stuff more than you read, right? So we're in a much more advanced world, but more people are watching instead of reading. And when I say reading, I mean having a high level of reading comprehension, being able to pull stuff out of print and pull stuff out of reading and understand what that means, as opposed to just watching videos, right? And I think that's going to be fall to the people, right? So I just want people to really understand that how many hours a week do you read? And what we find is that a lot of people really don't read like that. They do a lot of watching. And there's nothing wrong with being a visual learner. I'm a visual learner, but I read a lot too, right? I'm a visual learner. I'm a kinesthetic learner, but I read a lot. Always have read a lot. Have read a lot since I was a kid and didn't care who felt about it. I love to read. You're talking to somebody that actually loves to read, right? I really enjoy reading books. Like I really, really do. And then I come from a reading family. So it was reinforced in my family to read a lot. But what I've noticed is many people do not read a lot, right? They read, but they don't read a lot. And they are very dependent upon video. And I'm going to kind of talk about later in this particular video, the downside of that, right? How many hours a week do you watch TV or watch videos? So you know you read, but then how many hours a week do you watch TV or watch videos? And so here's one of the downsides, in my opinion, of you watching so many videos, and these videos being catered to get your attention really early and keep you there. Now, when you go to a book is boring to you because a book don't start off like that, right? A book may not have a bumper, and then the bumper is designed to get you there, and it may not start. Some books start really, really slow, right? And so what I believe is happening is people are being socialized to where they got to get that dopamine hit as soon as they come into the video. And if not, they drop off. Right. And they're chasing that because they're looking for what's going to be the thing that's going to. And if the reading doesn't really work like that, if you can't get exciting around the reading like that, it can hurt you. Because what if you got to study something that you don't think is exciting? Now, what are you going to do? So how many hours a week do you watch TVs or watch video? And so the reason why I often ask these questions is because I'm trying to get you to examine where you're at. Because a lot of people, they think just what we do is watch, I just do videos all day. And they don't really understand what's really going on around it. And I don't think they have the ability to understand it. One, they haven't sat with me on an extended period of time. They're on the outside looking in. But even sometimes when people get next to me, I don't think they understand it. How much of what I've been able to build business-wise comes as a result of reading, because I'm in a space where people give you printed material all the time. They don't make a lot of videos, right? So JP Morgan's not going to make videos around how they're looking at the market. It's going to come in what we call a note, and the note is going to be in print. And then therefore, if you don't understand what the note says, you don't understand what direction that they're looking at the market, because they're not going to make videos about this type of stuff. These guys are men, they don't have time for that. Don't let Dan Ives fool you. He's a salesperson, right? They're not going to sit back and do a whole bunch of videos around this stuff. Like, everybody doesn't do that. That's what he does. He's a salesperson, right? So I want you to understand is that I ask people these questions to get them to ask themselves, but many of them, they're not going to take heed to what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of them going to get lost in the sauce, but they can't say nobody didn't tell them, right? This is not where it's just video. That's not what we're doing here. But a lot of people, that's all they know. So we talked about the TikTok, which is really a Chinese intelligence operation, right? And people just falling right into it, So you have to realize that a lot of this stuff is designed to diminish your comprehension ability, to diminish your intellectual ability, and also to diminish your reading ability. And you buy into it because of the chemical reaction it creates in your body. Because if I'm trying to get a dopamine hit from reading, it can take a lot longer than what I get from video. So I'm going to chase the video. So it's like you're looking for that dope. And I've talked about before, a lot of people's on the internet, they're looking for their next hit. And they don't care who give it to them as long as they got the dope they're looking for. That's how addicts conduct themselves. It is what it is. So nobody knows how many hours a week they watch TV as a video. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. Have you been negatively impacted by weak reading skills? Right? Have you been negatively impacted by weak reading skills? Right? So what we'll do is we'll do a 30-second pause to give people time to answer that. Okay, so Nobody really has an answer to have you been negatively impacted by weak reading skills. Well, what I would tell people is that I talk to people all the time online, especially people in my audience, and I think they're reading. Some of these people have weak reading skills. And so here's how weak reading skills negatively impact you. You can have a challenge understanding material that can allow you to understand the situation going on around you. And it creates an apathy in you because why? If reading is more work to you than watching a video, so you watch more videos than you read, you're not developing the muscle that you need to develop, right? Because what you really should do is read. Now, if you have a learning disability, then we need to deal with that learning disability. Or you have a disability that negatively, we need to deal with that. But what we don't need to do is say, well, okay, well, let's just let you watch more videos instead of reading, because the issue is that there's certain things that are not going to be presented to you in the form of a video that you may still need to know. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that later on in this particular video. And how going for video and the kind of market that's been created around video and content creators, especially on social media, is not often giving you the information that you actually need. Is giving you the most entertaining information. And that's a problem, right? But you have to see that and identify that as a problem in your life to fix it. So what we find with a lot of people that have weak reading skills, until they hit a wall that won't allow them to get past that wall, and they decide that they want to get past that wall, that's when they address their weak reading skills. So Erica put out something, I want to say yesterday, when she talked about how you can get these certifications. Many of them are going to cause you to read. I'm right now getting ready to start doing some education around a certification I want to get. There is some video content, but a lot of it is reading. The test is going to be all written. If I have weak reading skills, I can't get that certification. So then that can negatively impact my ability to make money later on. So then what I do is I adjust to it. I try to work around it, and I will keep doing that. And then what I would do is I would surround myself with people that enable my lack of reading, and they never challenge it. Because I don't want to deal with it. I have rationalized it that is something wrong with. There's nothing wrong with it. I've rationalized it, right? So what I do is I figure out how can I accommodate this. But the challenge is that I often won't deal with it until there's a barrier put in front of me and I can't get past it. Okay. So that's what I want people to understand. There's a reason why I teach all traders to read. Why? Well, that's the reason why. That's how I got my success. I didn't get my success just looking at charts, right? And I also think that's a falsehood because many people can't pattern match as well as they think they can, right? So they're going away from reading and going to charting, but many of them struggle pattern matching. Many of them can't identify gradients, landscapes, things of that nature, right? So that's a challenge, but I teach traders to read. Now, here's some of the issues. I have a video on my Patreon about attention span. I've had those same challenges. I've had to learn how to work around it. When I was in college, it could take me twice as long as somebody else to learn the same material. I didn't care. I was going to learn the material. I had to figure out a system that worked for me to learn this material, even though it may take me twice as long to learn it because of my attention span. But I got a video on my Patreon about like, how do you manage learning in your attention span? You have to create a process that allows you to learn it based on your attention span. And then can we develop this particular attention span muscle to get stronger to where I can extend my attention span? So I don't care if your attention span is 2 seconds. Okay, now we know it's 2 seconds. How can we get it to 4 seconds? But if we just say my attention span is 2 seconds and that's going to be the limit of what I can learn, that's going to cause issues for you down the road. So if we've identified that my reading attention span is 3 minutes, we've identified that. Okay, now the question is, what break can we take between the 3 minutes to get back to reading? So if we do 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 3 minutes on, we know how much we can read over the course of an hour. But if we do 3 minutes and then for the rest of the day, I can't read no more because I'm done for the rest of the day, is that what we're dealing with? And I think that's what a lot of people are accepting, right? What kind of process or what kind of tools can we create to allow us to do this around what's currently going on, right? So I had to learn when I was in college, okay, this is the limit of my attention span. So when I max it out, I would go do something else, and then I would come back to my work. I may take a whole hour off. Then I would come back to my work. But what I wouldn't do is hit my max and then I'm done doing it for the rest of the day. I would have never got out of school doing that. So I learned how to really lock in on my attention span by figuring out what do I need to do to get out of college. Because I know a guy who told me, hey, man, you need to sit down and do math for like 3 hours. I was like, that'll never happen. I can't do math straight for 3 hours. So I realized this is how much math I can do. Take a break, go do something else that I think is fun, which is easy now because I got the internet, and then go back to my math. But what I wouldn't do is do the math till I got kind of burned out with it, and then I don't do nothing to the rest of the day. I would never get through the material doing it like that. So I teach traders to read, because that's how I got my success. I'm not teaching you to do something that I'm not already doing. But many people struggle with it. So really, if you come into my program, I'm going to teach you to read. Right? Keep reading. And then so then if we have challenges reading, then the question is what kind of process or what training or what tools do we need to pick up that will allow us to read? But we can't just say I can't read. So really, I'm a reading advocate. I'm an advocate for your literacy. Because if you're around me, we're going to read. That's something that we're going to do. We're going to talk, but we're going to read too. We're going to watch videos, but we're going to read. I like movies. I like all that, but we're going to read. You're going to have a hard time functioning around me if you don't like to read, because I don't just watch videos. I read a lot, right? I buy people books. I don't know if they read them or not, but I know I bought them for them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a reader. Always been one of since I was a kid. I love to read. You're talking to somebody that actually loves to read. And I don't have the longest attention span either. And anybody that's ever dealt with me can tell you that. I do not have the longest attention span. I love to read. I'll put a book down and pick it up, put it down and pick it up. But I'm going to read that book. I love to read. You're talking to somebody that actually enjoys reading. I think some people don't like reading, but I think what's causing it is they're not skilled at it. They're not comfortable with it. And they haven't figured out how to create tools around some of their reading challenges. And that is something that the educational system and a lot of programs haven't been able to help, right? So that's the one thing. So I want to show you something real quick, right? We're going to talk about Bob. How does Bob change his life? So, I know I promote a lot of people in my particular sphere of influence. We promote a lot of people changing their life through education programs, upskilling, things of that nature. Okay. But this is what a lot of people are being faced with. They have limited literacy skills. Therefore, when they decide that they want to change their life, they decide they fed up. They decide that they want to do something different with their life. They want to go into tech. They want to go into medical. They want to go into whatever, right? How do you change your life if your literacy skills won't allow you to change it? So now it's not an issue of you learning the material. It's an issue now when you going back and you making sure that your literary skills get up to par so you can learn the material. I had to do the same thing when I was in college. My math skills were not at a certain level. I had to go back, get my math skills up to a certain level to take the classes that I needed to take to understand the particular topics that I was going to study. So this is where that comes back to get you at a later date. And I'm not saying it from a negative standpoint, but it's a hurdle that you'll have to get over, is to where you decide, okay, David is talking about da-da-da-da-da. Erica's talking about da-da-da-da-da. Bodyhood's talking about this, that, and the third. I want to get into those particular areas, but I don't have the reading skills or the literacy comprehension skills to do that. So now I got to do the next year to 2 years of trying to get my reading skills up to par to go do that. And that's where a lot of people get hit at. So that when they face that, they say, well, I won't do that. And they stay right where they at. So then the economic warfare again is conditioning you to not read. So at the beginning, you don't get good reading education because the school system that you're in. Then you get put into a world where everything is watching videos. But in the highly skilled part of the world, you often still have to read. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, but in a lot of the highly skilled occupations, you still got to read to be successful. You got to be a reader. And not only do you got to read at a certain level where you can comprehend complex things out of the reading. And I see for a lot of people that I talk to on the internet, that is a challenge for them, right? They want another video, and that's not really how this thing works. right? So a lot of information that would be very valuable to people is in print. It's been in print for years. The reason why they know they can keep it in print is because why? They know people not going to read, because why? They didn't get a good reading. They didn't get a good education at the beginning of their life when they was young. And then we keep rolling out more video content, more video content, more video content, more video. So now they've been socialized that everything's going to pop up on the screen. And they just got to watch, right? So you got 1984 all over again. People don't even know it though, because why? They haven't read 1984. And 1984 is not a popular movie. But so because they haven't read, they don't even realize they're being walked into 1984. They don't even realize it. Because why? It's a book. So you ain't going to read the book and even know what you're being walked into. So I think that's a challenge for a lot of people is this reading piece, right? So how does Bob change his life if he can't read? Okay. So now we're going to go into one thing before we move into some of the actual numbers around it. The one book theory. I deal with a lot of this, and I've been dealing with this since I got on the internet. I would talk about something. People say, is there a book on that? Let me explain something to you. And I don't want to sound disrespectful, so I'm going to try to say this as gracefully as possible. Miss Williams is a professional in what she does. Okay. I cannot learn what Miss Williams does by reading one book. There may be a go-to resource in her space, but I can't take one book and learn what Miss Williams knows. It's not possible. It's not. Okay. So the idea to where you can learn certain topics by reading one book is a falsehood, right? The brother, I forgot his last name, Anglo guy named Wes. He's a Bible historian. He got on Joe Rogan the other day. Wes is where he's at because he's read multiple books and studied multiple books around certain topics. That's why he's a historian and he's considered the go-to person and the subject matter expert in this particular space. He's not there because he read one book, because he's a historian. He's not a pastor. He's a historian. So this one book theory to where I want to learn about this topic. What's the one book I need to read? It may be an introductory book, but you're going to have to read multiple books around this particular field of study, because that's how you learn the field of study. Because if that was the case, college would be one class. If it was just about one book, college would be just one class. College would say, hey, you got one class this one semester. You take this one book. We're going to test you on this one book, and now we're going to give you a degree. That's not how this works. And so, but I know I'm dealing with people that are not readers, right? And another reason why I know I'm dealing with people that are not readers is because they don't know how to do research. And that comes from not spending time in libraries. So even with the internet allowing you to find information easier than ever in the history of the world, people's research skills are weaker because why? I don't read. Right? So I don't know how to find information around a particular topic because I don't really read. And let me tell you something. Let me hip you to some real. These data query robots that they're calling artificial intelligence, but they're really data query. We don't know where that information is coming from. So I don't know whether or not the information is accurate because I don't know where it's coming from. So when I type something into Google, now they give you that list of points that's coming from this robot. And then the same thing with Twitter. They got this thing called Grok that's supposedly supposed to give you I don't know where that information is being pulled from. But people now believe that's research. And as more and more people start to use that and believe that's research, that's what they're going to fall back on. But you don't know where that stuff is coming from. But again, I don't know how to do research. So I asked on my YouTube, how many people have used Google Scholar to research stuff? So that's why a woman can get on YouTube and tell you that she reads PubMed. And because I read PubMed, I know that she's not saying nothing, because the majority of stuff on PubMed is not even valid. It's not even valid. It's just a study. Just because it's a study don't mean it's valid, but just because it's a study doesn't mean it's not valid. We have to actually go through the study. But just because it's on PubMed don't mean it's like scientific fact. That's not how PubMed works. But people, average person, never been on PubMed because why? All you do on PubMed is read. That's all you do there. There's no videos there. So when a person doesn't know how to do their own independent research and they don't have a process to do it, it impacts their ability to understand what's going on around them. So they think one book is going to be the book. That's not how this stuff works. And I want to really get people to really understand that and to try to say that as gracefully as possible. You have to understand that to be versed in a particular area or field of study, you're going to have to read multiple books. You have to put your time in. The same amount of time that you putting in worrying about the latest internet gossip, if you put that same amount of time in studying something, you'll be an expert on that too. Right? That's just how this works. And so I want people to, and really the beautiful thing about reading and something I learned at a young age is I love sports. So you know what I did when I was young? I read sports books. See, so Orlando has probably the best public library, in my opinion, in the country. I don't care what nobody tell you. I'll put it up against anybody public library. Orange County Public Library downtown. Google it when you get a chance. That can rival some of the libraries of antiquity. I guarantee. I'll put bread on that. And so what I would do is I would go to the sports section and I would just read sports books. But you know what I was reading? It wasn't like today where I'm just watching some dude talk about sports. No, it used to be something called sports authors, sports journalists, and they would write books about the sport. So I read everything you could read about football. I read everything that you could read about basketball. Then I got into like wars. I read like everything that you could read about the Vietnam War, right? Then I was always into like Black history. So I learned about Zora Neale Hurston because she was down there in Edenville. I started reading her stuff, reading about the history of Edenville, reading about other Black Rosewood, all that stuff. So whatever I was interested in, I had a library that was so big and so vast. I was just blessed. I was in a fortunate situation. A lot of people not there, but here's the benefit. Because of the internet, it's easier now to get books than it ever was. It's easier now to get books. You just have to have a desire to read. But anything that you're interested in, good or bad, I guarantee is books on it. It's books on it. Anything that you're interested in, good or bad, there's books on it. Because why? People have been writing books forever. Right? People have been writing books forever. There's books thousands of years old, going back to now, there's books a day old. So I want to really encourage you to get stronger in your reading. Is find an area that you're interested in and read in that area, and that'll build up your reading skills, where now you can go into other areas. Because anything that, no matter, it's books about flat Earth, even though the Earth is not flat. From a math, it's impossible for the Earth to be flat, right? Ask any pilot. But there's books about flat Earth, if that's your thing, right? If that's your thing, there's books about Middle Earth, even though there's no such thing as Middle Earth. But if Middle Earth is your thing, there's books about Middle Earth. Whatever you're into, there's books about it. So then therefore you can pick up and get better at reading by reading, because that's how I got good. I just read about sports. When I was real young, I just read a lot of sports books and I read the classics, and I love the classics. I love the classics. And that's how I really got into reading. And that's how I was able to advance my reading skills past my grade level, is because I was reading the classics when I was in grade school, because I love the classics. And I know the classics is going to be subjective. Some people are going to say those are not the classics, but to me, they're the classics. I love them, right? You can't tell me nothing about Around the World in 80 Days, 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Little Women, the Count of Monte Cristo, which was written by a brother. I think I forgot some other ones, A Tale of Two Cities. Like, I read all those books when I was like in grade school, because I actually love to read. I love to read. You're talking to somebody that you can't tell me nothing about reading. I love music, but I really love to read. So I wanted to get people to understand this one book theory. If you want to understand more about economics, you want to understand more about finance, I'm working on getting you a list of things that you can read, but it's not about you just getting access to one book. It's about you saying, hey, I want to learn about this particular area, and I'm willing to put the time in to learn and read multiple books about this particular area because I think it's interesting. If you want just a casual understanding of something, you can just go Google it, right? Anything I talk about on this YouTube, take those words and put it into Google, and Google will give you back information based on that. And that'll give you just a basic understanding of it if you don't want to take the time to read the books. Okay. So let's get into some of these particular documents real quick, because I didn't mean to sit there that long, because I know we on lunch. Right. So we're talking about now the transition from reading into video. So this is from Social Shepherd. So the reason why I'm getting you this is because as marketers, our job is to be ahead of the curve. So we want to know, where is a particular curve going? Where is the ball going? How can we get ahead of that so we can start offering these people products and services where they're currently at? So in Q1 2024, it was reported that online videos had an audience reach of 90.23% among internet users worldwide, right? So we're looking at most popular type of video content in the first quarter of 2024, videos, memes, viral videos, video live stream, educational videos, how-to videos, sports clips, product review, yada, yada, yada. As marketers, we want to know if we can get access to these videos, this is how we can reach consumers, right? But what we're seeing is that online videos had an audience reach of 92.3%. See, when I first the internet got big, we was in a blogosphere space where everybody was a blogger. Now everybody is a vlogger with a V. Everything's about video now. When the internet got real big, when social got real big, everything was about print. Well, what did that do? That kept most people out because most people, we're going to show out, they're not strong readers and they don't like to write. So what really, in my opinion, exploded the internet was people having the ability to watch video. That's what really exploded the internet. There's been a uptick, 23% in global internet traffic volume. Says this boost is attributed significantly to the escalating usage of streaming videos and the ongoing expansion of traffic across various app categories, encompassing gaming, cloud services, VPNs, marketplaces, and conferencing platforms. Testimonial videos have been the go-to for B2B companies, right? Many content marketers feel that their organization isn't using video to its full potential, right? We got video marketing usage statistics. So in 2023, individuals are dedicating an average of 17 hours per week to online video consumption, slight decline from last year's 19 hours, right? 14.9% of millennials watch 10 to 20 hours of online video per week, right? So these are important video marketing statistics to be aware of because it's a good sign that you can reach a millennial audience through video content. So again, as marketers, we're trying to figure out where's our audience at. We want to go after millennials. So what do? We go after video because that's where they're at. They're watching 10 to 20 hours of online video per week. I do not watch that much, but I'm not a millennial, right? I couldn't imagine watching 20 hours of online video content because I don't watch 20 hours of TV. So I couldn't imagine watching that much of online content. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I want people to understand is that these are the things that are going on. Okay, that's that one. U.S. daily time spent watching traditional TV and digital video, right? I want you to just see that even though TV has gone down in 2024 and then going into 2025, this is going to be digital video has gone up. So it's still watching. They're not leaving digital video and going to print. It's a decline in traditional television, but there's an increase in digital video because, again, we're in a world, in my opinion, where everybody's watching. Okay, let's go to key trends because I want you to see this because I was talking about somebody that works in journalism. So let me frame this properly. I know somebody that works in journalism. They left the space and they told me they would never tell young people to go into the space. They told me that. They would never tell a young person to go into the space because they say it's a dying space. Okay, some of y'all gonna be too young to remember where there was a time in this world where the paper came to your house and then you had the newsstands in the cities and people would buy newspaper to read that day. So there was subscription revenue and then there's the revenue where they would sell it to this particular vendor and then he would sell it at a newsstand. And that was the business model. Those subscription revenues essentially contracted. So this is why there's not a lot of newspapers out. I grew up in Orlando. There was an independent black newspaper in Orlando. Those don't exist anymore. They're dead. It used to be independent black newspapers across the country. They don't exist anymore, right? Even on the digital side, they rarely exist. But they used to be in print when I was coming up. So you can figure out where's the black neighborhood of the city, and they literally would have somebody putting out a paper. Because there was a time in this country where they would not put black people in the obituary or the main paper. So if a black person died in the city, they had to be in the black obituary in the black paper. They wouldn't even record it. So it created necessity for these black papers. All that's over, right? The print media game from a newspaper standpoint is done. It's over. So I know somebody that works in journalism, they're leaving and they're not retirement age. They're just leaving. And they told me they would never tell a young person to go into journalism because they said it's a dying industry. Why? Because people don't read anymore. They don't read. So this is why you got guys like Whitlock, who's a writer, who was forced into video media. And he has a face for radio. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but he got a face for radio. But he's been forced into video media, but he really was a writer. In fact, he was a featured writer. He was a columnist, which is a very exclusive position. Skip was a writer. The young people don't know that Skip was a writer, right? If you go watch ESPN 30 for 30, the SMU documentary, right? Skip is in that documentary. We used to write for a paper out of Dallas. Skip's a writer, but Skip had to transition to video because why? Nobody reads anymore. And Skip was early. He was early 2000s going into video with Cold Pizza on ESPN because nobody reads anymore. So Skip had to reinvent himself as a video guy. But Skip Bayless really is a writer, right? Because these newspapers are dead. And a lot of these newspapers or Post just laid off some people. They've had massive layoffs. They're going to have more layoffs. They're not making money, right? They're not profitable anymore. And so they're losing their staff. So we're in a world where there's no such thing as journalists anymore, unless you're the AP or you're Reuters. There's no more journalists. And people don't really understand how that impacts their news because the average person doesn't know where news comes from. And I wanted to try to help people understand where news comes from, but that'd be like a really, really in-depth video. It'd take me a long time to put it together. But the average person don't know where news actually comes from. So in a world without journalists, we're all dependent upon one or two news feeds to give us all our news because there's no journalist in the field doing stories. So let me go back to this real quick because I didn't mean to be long-winded, right? So we're talking about audiences are declining for traditional news media in the U.S. with some exceptions, right? Here's the decline, right? Newspaper circulation continues to decline. 1980 was around the peak, okay? Massive drop-off. And to me, it was just a result of really the internet. When we start to see this slope start to really increase because the internet got real big mid-90s, right? Got real big mid-90s. So we're really seeing 2000, this decline slope start to really, really increase, right? The rate of change of the slope starting to really, really increase, right? So we're seeing 2020 really, really low. The peak was way up here at around 60 million, right? Weekday and Sunday, okay? Biggest brands experiencing digital growth, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, which I tell people to read, Washington Post. But it says all three are experiencing declines in their print subscriptions. Other data suggests that substantial increases in digital subscriptions for these particular publications. But it's just these three publications. So they've always been the biggest brand. The New York Times always been the New York Times. The Journal always been the Journal. The Post always been the Post. But I know for a fact, because I know people that work for the Post, they're experiencing a lot of declines. They've laid off a lot of people. They're getting ready to lay off some more people. And I think Bezos owns the Post. Overall, digital traffic to newspapers' websites is declining. The average monthly number of unique visitors to the websites of the country's top 50 newspapers has declined 20% to under 9 million in the fourth quarter of 2022, down from over 11 million in the same period of 2021. Traffic to top digital news websites is not picking up the slack, right? Declining audiences for local TV news across multiple time slots is something totally different. Let's look at time spent reading for personal interest. This is from BLS, right? This is old because it's 2020. But what I want you to show you is that total 15 and over, 2019 to 2020, not even 0.50 hours per day reading for personal interest, right? So what I'm seeing is a lot of numbers around people just not reading. That's what I'm saying, right? We're seeing, more increase in video watching and big decrease in people reading, which has killed the newspaper industry, right? But I believe that is negatively impacting people's economic mobility. And so there's a deficit at the beginning of a lot of people's lives because they come out of a bad school system. Their parents may not know the impact of reading. And then as they get later in their life and they want to try to change their life, the challenge is now the reading piece becomes the stumbling block or the barrier. We got to deal with that first to deal with them actually getting the education the same way in my situation. And like I said, I'm going to give you a scene from the movie. It's not the whole movie. When I really had to get serious about my studies in college, I had to deal with the part around my attention. I had to figure out what are going to be some tools to deal with my attention issue, right? As opposed to, I'm going to let that be the issue to why I can't get this material. right? And so I've learned to create tools around that even to this day, right? I will leave and go take a walk and get some sunshine for 10, 15 minutes and come back and get back to work and just break my attention, as opposed to just jumping from situation to situation while I'm on the computer, because a lot of this stuff can be enticing, but I can't get caught up in it because I got work to do. Like, so I could have never put this video out if I didn't know how to do that. So U.S. illiteracy rates, I'm gonna go into it real quick. Over half of adult Americans, 54%, read below a 6th grade level. So 1 in 5 adults read below a 3rd grade level. Overall literacy rates, 4 out of 5 U.S. adults considered literate, right? But being literate doesn't mean that you read at a high level. However, more than 130 million adults have low literacy skills. By 2020, 54% of adults in the U.S. had English prose literacy below the 6th grade level. Now, the question I want to ask is, what does prose literacy mean? Do I have that here? Prose literacy is a knowledge and skills needed to perform a prose task, i.e. to search, comprehend, and to use continuous text. So examples include editorials, news stories, brochures, and instructional materials. Okay, so going back to this particular information, we find out 54% had a prose literacy below a 6th grade level, right? That's in 2020. So based on this particular study and their population sample, they're inferring for 54% of the American public, right? So we have to understand is that as we try to move people into higher level material and more complex material, they don't necessarily have the skills and the tools to understand what is being presented to them, which can impact their economic mobility, because we're going into a much more advanced world where these skills are going to be much more important, in my opinion, right? We're talking about proficiency level and scoring range. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We also got below 1, right? Level 1, read short, continuous, non-continuous, and mixed text in digital print format to locate a single piece of information that is identical or synonymous with the information given in the question or directive, right? Level 2, presented in digital print, comprise continuous, non-continuous mixed types. This requires respondents to make matches between the text and information. It requires paraphrasing or low-level inferences, right? We got level 3, level 4, level 5. We have all these particular levels of reading ability. We went to that. Then here's a particular study done by the Barbara Bush Foundation. We say that U.S. could be losing $2.2 trillion annually due to low adult literacy rates. So this was put out in 2020. So according to the U.S. Department of Education, more than half of U.S. adults aged 16 to 74, we talked about that, 54%, 130 million people, they lack proficiency in literacy, reading below the equivalent of a 6th grade level. And we believe that literacy is linked to a better health, higher levels of civic engagement, higher earnings in the labor market, right? So they partnered with this particular economist from the Gallup to talk about some of the economic impacts of that. Here is the economist that they partner with. So improving adult literacy would have an economic benefits, and they believe that would generate an additional $2.2 trillion and 10% of the GDP. Income is strongly related to literacy, right? The average income of adults who read at the equivalent of a 6th grade level is around $63,000. So this is significantly higher than adults who read at a 3rd to 5th grade level, right? Those reading at the lowest levels of literacy, they get around $34,000 average. Economic gains will be high in large metro areas. So the nation's top metropolitan areas, that's going to be NYC, LA, Chicago, Dallas, would stand to gain at 10% of their GDP by bringing all adults to a 6th grade leading level. And also Houston's in that pack too. I think 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 people in Houston have adult literacy issues. So we're looking at some of the economic impacts of adult reading challenges. And so what I want people to understand and what I'm trying to communicate to you in this video is that if you struggle with reading and if you struggle with reading comprehension, what can we do to help you improve your skills so you can continue to move up economically? Because what we don't want to happen is that your lack of reading skills be used as economic warfare against your economic mobility, to where you can't move up the economic scale because you can't learn the information that it's going to take for you to move up. We don't want that to happen to you, right? Because we know you have the desire. We know you have the want to. You may just have to go learn the skills. So what can we do to empower you in this particular area so you can get those skills so you can now learn it the same way I had to do it, to where I didn't have the math skills when I went to college to take the math that I needed to take for my major. So I had to go and do remedial classes to learn the math. I had to just go through that because I knew my math was weak. It would not allow me. If they would have gave me those classes, I would have failed because I couldn't do math at that level. So what can we do to empower you? But often there's a shame, there's a guilt, yada, yada, yada. And I can understand that. So again, what we need to try to do is figure out how to create solutions for people to where they feel comfortable saying that they have challenges reading. But again, if you're around me, I'm going to continue to encourage you to read. Just keep reading because I believe it'll be beneficial to you, right? Nothing wrong with watching television, nothing wrong with watching video. You know, people do what they do. I watch stuff, but I do not, and I don't think there's any time in my life to where I watch more television than I read. But I was very fortunate. I was blessed to be in a city which to me got the best public library in the whole country. Let me explain something to you about Orlando Public Library. They was, what y'all see in Amazon, we had that low-key before Amazon. I don't know when Amazon popped off. I know when I started using Amazon. But I grew up in Orlando, man, they will bring you books in a truck. So you could order the book on the internet and they'll bring you the book. So there really was no excuse for you not to read in Orlando. Like they would bring you books. They had people that was hired. They have trucks just like them Amazon Sprinter trucks you have. And they would go around and bring you books. So you didn't even have to leave your house to get no book. Right? So one thing I will say about Orange County wanted you to read. And I'm not from a really high education city, you know, because I'm from a city of tourism and people picking oranges. But somebody in that county building wanted you to read because they created every tool in the world for you to get your books. So I would sit in my house and order something on the internet, and about a week later, they bring it to me. Then you could put books on hold to where if they didn't have the book, but once it came in, they hold it for you at the library. They would email you, go pick it up. Like they did everything they could to help you read. Yeah, it's Orange County Public Library. When I go to most big cities, I go to their major library in the city. It's nowhere even close to Orange County Public Library. That is a big library. Our law library is bigger than most college libraries, right? Just the actual public law library, it's a whole floor. It's a law library. It's bigger than most college libraries, right? So you got to understand that is a big resource for us. But I want to really encourage people to read. Now I'm going to roll into this real quick before we get out of here, right? And some people are going to take this as controversial. It is what it is. I feel like I was compelled to say it. We talking about low literacy levels, right? And we talking about some of the issues that people are having reading, okay? And how that negatively impacts them from an economic standpoint. I want to talk about how it can impact you from a faith standpoint. Because what we've experienced and because we know around some of the reading issues that a lot of people have is that they are not reading their books of faith because we live in a video world now. So what they're trying to do is get all their faith-based education from what? Videos. That ain't how this game's supposed to work. This game not supposed to work like that. So whatever book of faith you're supposed to be involved in, you're supposed to read it. And so what we have is we have so much controversy around certain topics because people don't want to read. And that's what creates the controversy. I've talked about that on this video for years. Most of the things that you think are controversial, you can go pull documentation and go pull information on this particular, and it'll kill the controversy. It'll kill it. I'll prove that with Breonna Taylor. There is no controversy if we actually go pull the documents. But the controversy exists because why? It's people that need to make videos to keep the video situation going. We can't pull no documents and look at the document because the document kills a controversy. So what we're seeing, especially on this YouTube, but really all over the internet, is a lot of people is making videos around faith-based topics. And people, this is now becoming they study. That's not how this is supposed to work. You need to read. And you got a dude, and I don't necessarily consume his content because I do not like faith-based influencers. I just don't. That's not my thing. I know who the faith-based influencer is. That's who I pay attention to. I don't pay attention to the rest of these folks. Because I know who the #1 faith-based influencer is. That's who I got my eyes on. I ain't got my eyes on the rest of these people because they're going to be here today, gone tomorrow. But one thing he does say that I agree with is he compels people to where is this in the text? And you'll find whole ministries built around stuff that ain't in the text. And what they're doing is they're taking advantage of people's weak reading skills. Because you got whole people who got ministries and they got whole theologies built around stuff that's not in the text. It don't even exist. That's a problem because it's not that you don't have the text. But again, we have problems that existed before these people got into these particular faiths, or they've been in these faiths their whole life, and there never was a emphasis put on reading. Right? And so that's something that I wanted to go ahead and wrap this up because this is because again, we in an era now where everybody on the internet watching all this video. Right? So I just got to make videos. So I just need content. But the problem is that why aren't we pushing people back to reading in a particular faith? Whatever their faith is, it's a book. Why are we not pushing you back to the book? Because I'm dealing with people that already don't read. Right? So but it didn't really blow my mind because I grew up with people that come from the charismatic side. So I already kind of knew what was going on. It just wasn't none I participated in. So when I kind of got aware, that's already what they was doing 30 years ago when I was a little kid. So it didn't blow my mind. But I want you to understand that like this stuff has consequences in the real world where my reading skills are not up to par. My reading skills are not sharp. My reading skills are not at a certain level. So then people are able to come to me and put me on this hamster wheel because I don't have the ability to read and understand. And so there's also this colloquialism because now we get into the game of colloquialisms, rappers, people trying to rap from all kind of just weird thing, got nothing to do with the text. Why does that work? Because I don't read. Right? And so you can't lean into your own understanding if you can't read. There's no understanding to lean to. And I'm saying people say don't do it, but you can't do it if you can't read. If you cannot read the words that are in front of you, there is no understanding to lean on. You can't read. Right? And you can't read on a level that where it makes sense to you. And we're not saying this from a derogatory standpoint. We're not saying this to attack you. What I'm saying is that there is a lot of bad stuff out here because people aren't reading. And that's what was so powerful about that dude, West, to go on Joe Rogan's show. And to get West to understand is that what I'm talking to you is documented and it's in print. It ain't no he say, she say. And West gonna go pull the documents. That's what I like about West. West gonna go pull that documentation. That's why a lot of people don't want him on their show. Because we ain't gonna sit around and talk for 3 hours about stuff and didn't know we gonna go pull this documentation. So that's what he did against that dude, Billy. He went and started pulling documents. And Billy wasn't ready for that. Because Billy come out of the world where I just make a bunch of videos. And West come out of a world where we're going to go pull these documents. And we're going to look at these documents and we're going to see what the documents say. Now, you can believe that the document is forged, it's not valid, yada, yada. But we just ain't finna sit up and talk in circles for 3 hours. We ain't going to do that. And so that's what was so powerful about him being on Rogan, because Rogan deal with a lot of people that can't provide no documentation. They just be talking. That's Rogan's world. And that's how Rogan made himself rich. So you look at that video, Rogan didn't even know what to say. Because Rogan's used to, we just gonna sit up here and smoke us a bunch of weed and just talk in circles. So I want you to understand is that we have to really feel confident moving into the space of reading, because these things are here to empower us, to put us in a better position. And if we don't take advantage of it, it's gonna be detrimental to us long term. It's gonna also be detrimental to our family. And if you're around me, I'm gonna continue to encourage you to read. That's just it. So I want to go ahead and wrap up with that. So we got any questions, comments, disagreements? We're not going to go live right now because we're pushing on an hour. So any questions, comments, disagreements, yada, 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 let me know. We're not going to come on live, but if you got any questions, comments, let me know. I'm going to read these super chats. I appreciate everybody for coming through. We're going to read this other stuff and we're going to get up on out of here. So Terrence, man, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Oh, so let me say something real quick to anybody that's still on. I'm gonna put this on my YouTube also. If you know how to use Thinkorswim, also called TOS, if you know how to use a Thinkorswim platform on the laptop, so I'm gonna need this on the laptop. You know about conditional orders. You know how to execute options trades on that platform. I will pay you to show me how to do that. Right? I just want a tutorial on that. I don't want to watch a million YouTube videos from people that's not getting to the point. I want a tutorial specifically. I will come with specific questions around certain stuff. I do not want to watch YouTube videos around people that ain't never going to get to the point. So if you know how to do that, my YouTube got an email, hit me on the back channel, and we can set up what's your fee, what's the cost associated with that, and I'll pay you to do me like 30-minute hour tutorial walkthrough because I need to learn how to do that for this year. I should have learned it last year. I need to go ahead and get into that. Pascal, man, appreciate the $9.99 super chat. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, so I'll call it a Stango, if that's your last name. So in programming computers, you must be able to use the tone of the documentation. Do you have any advice to increase the attention span and improve reading skill? Okay, so it's Stango, appreciate the $5 super chat. So it's in my Patreon, some of the techniques that I use to increase my attention span, right? But it's really, for me, it was about consistency, right? And being very consistent and just trying to gradually increase my attention span. So very similar to where if you start working out, you may only be able to work out 30 minutes. Okay, cool. Work out 30 minutes for 90 days, right? Next 90 days, work out for 45 minutes. And now you can work out for 45. That's how I did it. It wasn't overnight. It was very gradual. So understanding where's my wall at of my attention span, knowing where my wall is at, then how can I gradually increase that wall little by little? And then also knowing my limit. Sometimes, man, also knowing myself. When I was in college, I would not study anything mathematic in the evening because it was too much tax on my brain because I had to think too hard. So if I just was going to read, I would read in the evening, but I wouldn't do anything like really heavy in the evening because I was already tired from the whole day. So just understanding my limits, but a lot of it is consistency and just being very gradual. But it's also in my Patreon, so you can hit that up. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Okay, so again, I don't understand where that's coming from, but blessings to you, bro. Yeah, I got an email. It's in the YouTube. So if you go to the YouTube, there's a thing for the email. My email's in there. And I know it's there because marketers hit me up on it all the time, asking me, do I want to post Forex and do I want to promote stocks and all kind of stuff. So I know it's there because marketers hit me up all the time on the email. So it's there, Mr. Louis. So hit me up, bro. So Jay Preston, man, what's up with it? Mr. Davis, what's up? Miss Brandy Williams, like I say, hit up for y'all taxes. Y'all know it's tax season. I just went to professional today. He was doing his taxes. I don't know if he was doing last year's or this year's, but he was doing his taxes. He wasn't even in the office. I had to FaceTime the guy on somebody else's phone. So people already got their tax stuff. I got to get mine together because you got an escort. They be trying to get you to report early. So I got to get it together. Jalen Marsh said, I read 10 pages a day. It changed my life. I feel you. Yeah. So I'm a big fan because I learned, y'all know, some of y'all ain't going to know who this is because, Square Business. But y'all know, some of y'all know who Donald Goins is, right? Some people learn how to reading Donald Goins, and that's where they start. And then from there, they expand. But they learned on Donald Goins, right? And I can read a Donald Goins book in 15 minutes, but that's me. So some people may get that Donald Goins book, and it may take them all day to read it. Okay, cool. It may take them all week to read it. Okay, cool. But at least you got through it. And then once they get used to that and that become their thing and they done read every Donald Goins book, and some of y'all ain't gonna know who Donald Goins, because I can say Square Business, right? But then once they get used to that Donald Goins, then now they can expand into other material. So it's always about starting where you at and then just trying to figure out, okay, what's my limit? And then continue to expand my limit, right? That's really to me where it's at. So Ms. Brandy said she read 5 hours per day minimum, 1 hour daily articles, 4 hours of coursework. I feel you. Got to stay at it. Yeah, I feel you right there. Tech Homeboy says 1.5 hours work and non-work dedicated directly to reading. It's a lifestyle. I feel you, especially in your field, you probably got to read all the time. Because the same thing of mine, I got to constantly be doing continuing education, even if it's not for like something that I can get certified for, but I got to constantly be educating myself on my space. So I'm constantly reading, bro. And in my space, it's a print space. It's really not a video space, even though we do got Bloomberg, we do got CNBC. But a lot of the firms, they're giving you print material. They're not giving you videos like that. All right. And there's a whole reason to that I learned in direct response marketing. But yeah, they're giving you print. Yeah, I agree, Miss Rose. I got 2 library cards. Right. Because where I'm at, we got a county library and a city library. They both small though, but I got 2 library cards. So Tech Homeboy, you watch 3 to 4 hours of TV daily. You got a lot of time, bro. I can't even do it. Right. But big up to you, the information, business, AI related topics. But I can't watch 3 to 4 hours of TV. I ain't got the time. I watch the market for 3 to 4 hours, but I can't watch TV that much. And in the background, for me, a lot of it is like focus music. So like if I'm working, I got focus music on YouTube in the background. I rarely have people talking, because if I'm reading and somebody's talking, I get distracted. So I can't even do it. So Black Pearl Incorporated, going after a new skill that requires me to read and comprehend all day in the sky. So I'm working on that muscle. I feel you'll get there. Just keep working on it. It's like a muscle. Just keep working on it. Develop it over time. It'll get there. And I think it'll accelerate faster than what people may believe with just consistency. The point about pattern matching is very valid. 100%. But people find out most people cannot pattern match to save their life. That's why charts won't save them. But they don't want to read, Vickers, right? So that's just what it is. And I'm thinking for some reason, I thought you was another L Vickers, but I'm thinking you a different person because something was said on another video. But big up to you. But yeah, pattern matching. A lot of people try to do charting by pattern matching, but they're really not good at pattern matching like that. But they're not aware of it because it hasn't really been tested. So they're going to struggle there because charting is really about pattern matching. What's up with Ant Dog? So Lovely Ava says, I'm an avid reader since I was a little girl, encouraging children in my life to do the same. The parents have to reinforce. I agree with you. Something that I don't know if you know who, I forgot the name of this guy. It's just slipped my brain real quick. He used to be with Yvette. He out there in Athens, Georgia. He's I believe he's a professor, or he's on the PhD track. Irony. So big up to Irony. I was on his video the other day. And he talked about how he understood that parents have to partner with the school on education. It can't just be on the school. That's something he really got his children to understand. So parents do have to reinforce. I was taught how to read at home. So I went to school already knowing how to read. The school didn't teach me how to read. Right. So I had an advantage over other children in that particular aspect because I already knew how to read before I showed up, where other people, they would send a child to school to learn how to read because they're not readers themselves, you know? So it is what it is. So Christian say you grew up dyslexic, then I learned reading to college. That being said, I read a crazy amount right now. I feel you, bro. I feel you. Big up to you. Ms. Ava said libraries are pretty much empty in my area. Yeah. The local libraries I hear, they're not really that big, so they can't be but so full. But yeah, they don't have a lot of people in them. So Financial LLC, library has Wall Street Journal for free. I'm there when I'm checking the papers. I feel you. So Gina C says you retired from the library. Appreciate it. Big up to all the librarians. Okay, so I didn't know that, Mr. Lynn. So appreciate you giving me that. So one of the original corporate magnet cities that sought to draw talent from the north to the southern city, the library and public infrastructure was part of the pitch. I feel you. Yeah, that's I wonder why that library was so big. That library off the chain, Mr. Lindsay. So that's one of the reasons why it was so vast. Yeah, the public library downtown is just crazy. The type of resources they have they got podcasting on it now. Like it's everything they got. It's just crazy. And it's like a level 5 hurricane building. You can't even knock that thing. You got to bomb it to knock it down, but it's not going to go down in a hurricane. It's like a level 5 building. Even got a basement, which is rare for any building in Central Florida. It has a basement. I don't even know how they built that. That's almost like impossible to do in Florida, especially Central Florida. Yeah, Mick, it's multi-story. It got a basement. I want to say it got 3 floors, including the basement. Right. So I believe it's 3 floors, including the basement. But yes, multi-stories. What's up to Cedric Webb? What's up to Miss Glamour? Watch law school student videos, all they can pay about is reading. Well, they need to get used to it because the majority of law is study. It's not the courtroom. That's TV. A good lawyer is a good researcher. Right? At least that's what I want my lawyer to be and have a good network. But yeah, the majority of law is study. It's not courtroom. Shoot, I want to keep it out of court. I don't want to pay all that money in court. Let's keep it out of court. So that's the thing. So if they in law, they got to get used to reading. The majority of law is study, from my understanding. Big up to Jonathan Barnes. He says that children got mandatory reading every night. Either it's reading to them or on their own. I feel you. Yeah, when I was growing up, man, I would tell my mother I was bored. She would say, read a book. So I just got in a reading habit real early. And then I started to really just enjoy it because I realized that there's some people out there that can really write. Like they can write for real. Like they got a gift for writing. And once I realized that, you couldn't stop me from reading because I just wanted to read everybody that can really write. And there's people that they have a gift. I ain't talking about they writing blogs. Like it's people out there can write books that's 3,000 pages and you just can't even put the book down. Like, man, this don't make no sense. There's some people that got a gift for that. Christian, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. As a tech professional, I have to read to stay current and relevant. I'm the same way, right? I got to read to stay relevant. I had to be able to read, what's the dude named Shkreli? He put out an article yesterday about how all these quantum computer companies are short. So I had to read that yesterday. So it's just always, and he come out of the finance space. They're going to put out stuff in print. Now, he does a lot of video, but he can write too. He can write because, he has to be able to put out briefs. He has to be able to put out notes because he worked for a firm, and that's the type of stuff they made you do. So it is what it is. All right, so we're going to get up on that. I ain't going to keep y'all too long, man. So I appreciate everybody for coming through. So again, I just want to really encourage everybody to read. And if you have challenges with your reading skills, there may be solutions in your local area to help you overcome some of those challenges. But I want to really encourage you to ask yourself how maybe your limitations in reading are negatively impacting your ability to move up economically, to understand what's going on in the world around you, and to make you live a more, how would I say, fulfilled life. And, if that's something that you want to work on, I want to always encourage you to work on that. So we're going to get up on out of here. Y'all stay safe. Talk to you later.